Mark Minasi, it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you again.
So what do you think about PowerShell? About the potential of it?
I think that Jeff briefed me on PowerShell like 5 years ago.
Right.
Really, really early, and it was very nice for him to take me into his confidence. I think it's because I'm a command line guy or something like that. It's a great idea. The one thing that I think we're missing is, in Exchange, when you're working with the Exchange UI, you can click that little button, and it will show you the PowerShell commands that would do what you just did with the button.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we have it with System Center
Virtual Machine Manager
2008.
Right.
We were supposed to have it with Active Directory. We have a new GUI, Active Directory, Administrative Center for Active Directory.
Right, replacing ADAS.
That's ACAD, I got that wrong. It's an Active Directory Administrative Center.
Yes.
We were supposed to have the button, we didn't get it.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. Do you think that that PowerShell is going to be seen widely across Microsoft as the way going forward? I mean, they've had some mandate exactly with the exactly. So do you see any further barriers for that?
Okay, so here's pluses and minuses. I don't know if you know, I'm a big command line guy. I did a talk a couple of tech heads ago about why command line's the way to go and whatever, and I write a lot about it. The one problem in the Windows world, as I'm sure you know, is that there's no consistency. You know what I mean? So we have a command and it's got parameters and arguments. Do you put a dash before the parameter? Do you put a slash before it? It's just positional? Dealer's choice. It's whatever the programmer did,
Right.
PowerShell, as you know better than I do, has this wonderfully predictable verb-noun side, sort of linguistic air to it. It's easy to discover parameters. It's easy to find out what commands are out there. That's the good part. The bad part is that PowerShell commands tend to be very long until you start learning the aliases. And PowerShell's still got there's a little bit of a hump to get over it. And I would say, with all respect, that a lot of the PowerShell guys that I know are trying to teach people how to do PowerShell scripts. What I'm doing with Active Directory is I'm starting them off easy. And I'm saying, we've got 73 commandlets. And here, let's just do what I call an atomic command. Mm-hmm. Create an Active Directory user. Easy. We can do a lot of that. But then there's a lot of things we want to do where we want to say, I want to do something to a subset of the Active Directory. So now we need 3 commands. There's dump all the users in Active Directory, pipe that, that's the big concept, right? The pipeline.
Right.
Pipeline that into where. That's the filter.
The where object.
And so that's kind of complicated. People aren't ready, not everybody's ready for that, but I think I've got some examples that make it clear.
Well, I think part of it, and I wrote a book recently where a lot of managing VMware with Windows PowerShell.
Wow.
Yeah, cool. It went really well. I was very happy with it. What I found myself doing, and this goes to what you're saying about scripts, what I did was a lot of command line snippets here and there, a lot of bite-sized pieces, a lot of just taking this commandlet, giving a couple of flags, setting it to a variable, maybe the next example or two down the page, moving further along in that direction. There weren't that many full-length scripts that I felt necessary to put in the book because that kind of was an abstraction layer later that many system administrators don't need to worry about at that point. Right. They'll get to it, but it's with the task, but the high-level commandlets just lets you do a whole lot with a little.
So, one of the questions I always get when I'm talking command line stuff, and I never have a great answer. I've got a number of answers, but I'm not excited about any of them.
Okay.
How do I remember that stuff? So how
the verb noun syntax, of course, helps a whole lot.
Yep.
I mean, you've got get VM, get user, get whatever it is, new set. So you really have to. I actually recommend spending some time looking at the list, and it's not very long. Looking at the list of approved verbs. Microsoft has where they give you a definition of what they expect the developer to how they expect them to implement it. Obviously, the nouns are going to be specific to the domain to which you're speaking. You've got users for AD and VMs for Hyper-V or VMware.
Right.
Once you've got the taxonomy in place, if you will, it all sort of falls into place. I mean, there's going to be some gaps. So you've got to have to memorize some stuff as you get into it, but. Right. I think if you treat it like building blocks, as opposed to, perhaps on a Linux system, ls-bin, and you've got a list of 500, items spinning past, you don't have to look at it that way because you can say, well, for example, git-command, pipe that to group verb, and you can group everything by the verb and very quickly see how these things break down.
Okay, so let's say that I figure out how to do something really important in VMware using PowerShell. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you advise people to keep a cheat sheet? I mean, should you have Notepad always open on the desktop and, here's a command and it did this for me, or should we use an Outlook, sticky note, or, Or you're just a programming guy that just goes into your head and stays there?
That's a good question. I'm not a programming guy, but I actually had somebody ask me the other day why I wasn't one, which really floored me. I didn't have an answer to it. I've been in system administration for a dozen years. Never really occurred to me that I would even pretend to be a developer, because that was not the way.
You had those programmer wrinkles in your head, never even knew it.
Perhaps, but I think part of it is, well, PowerShell is very discoverable, as you know. So you can, for example, use the get member commandlet and examine what the properties and methods of an object are. So what I recommend doing is having a window open, perhaps, where all you're doing is exploring those members of objects. So you can say, take a file info object, which is, of course, what comes back when you run get child item. That's a list of files in your hard drive. Just set that to a variable, pipe it to get member, and then play around with it. And then leave that window open, and you're over here in another window, your favorite editor or what have you, working on a script, right. And then go examine that go back to your other window and examine the properties and methods, and mess around with things like get help, get member, right. Get command. Because it's all right there for you.
You're saying exploit the interactivity.
Yes, definitely.
And that makes it easier for me. I remember learning Fortran on Punch cards.
I have to admit that that's older than I am.
A long time ago. I mean, but when we went from, and this, I'm quoting Bill Joy here, but we all had the same epiphany. When you went from dumping stacks of cards into a computer and getting the green bar paper a half an hour later to actually interacting, since it was like the difference between playing postal chess and going to speed chess. That was really the difference.
Yeah. So it definitely, when you plug these things, all the concepts that they've given you and the tools that they've given you with PowerShell. I mean, I'm not really that big of a note-taking type of person as far as cheat sheets and that thing. I did have, I think there's a trifold cheat sheet that comes with PowerShell. Has a lot of the operators, so there is a set of things that are important to have memorized. So I would definitely recommend printing out the cheat sheet that comes with PowerShell.
Good.
And it's got all the operators. It has orders of execution and parentheses, and telling you about some of the other constructs and syntax. So yeah, I would definitely start there.
Cool.
Well, I think we probably run out of time. We've probably gone about maybe 15 minutes over what she was talking about.
Great pleasure to talk with you, sir. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Pleasure was all mine, Mark. Thank you very much.